It's just a speaker. Okay.
Yeah. Just to start with, the side is the Kliyaka on last week's parasha. Kliyaka explains on the pasuk "V'krafta mincha chadash al Hashem," which we're talking about the Yom Tov over there. So he says that's a siman for the Yom Matan Torah. Ki ha'Torah tzricha liyes chadasha eitzel ha'adam b'chal yom ki'ilu hayom kiblu mahar Sinai. Every single day the Torah has to be chadasha to you, like today you will mekabel mahar Sinai. And he says he's bothered. How come it doesn't say Yom Matan Torah in the Torah? It doesn't say it on Shavuos. It's Yom Matan Torah. It just says that today is
the deep uncertainty about whether or not the Fed will be successful with this software.
Okay. It says that it's all about Shavuos, but it doesn't say it says Yom Hatzos, but it doesn't say anything about that it's Matan Torah. He says because Matan Torah le'rotza Hashem lahagbil Yom Yadua. If you should tzarech ha'adam she'yadayim olay b'chal yom v'yom kol yomos hashana ki le'ba'isa yom kibla mahar Sinai. Every day it has to be like Yom Mekabel Mahar Sinai, which means if we're going to go ahead and set aside a day, today is Har Sinai, so we say that no, every single day has to be a day like Har Sinai.
Too close. Huh?
Too close, no? Yeah.
Move it an inch. That does it. Okay, good.
So he says that it has to be chashiv to you like every day, that today was again Matan Torah. Shataya nimshal l'dad zeh shekol zman shatinik v'mashlish v'ho moitze tam chodesh kach ha'Torah kol ha'higaba moitze b'chol yom tam chodesh. Anyone that's miyageya in Torah feels that today is another tam chodesh. Dinu she'edayim ela b'chol yom kila yom kibla mahar Sinai. Every day we have to feel like today we're Mekabel Mahar Sinai. I feel truly with this kailo and learning a limud, that's a shver limud. It's not an easy limud. And you're going ahead and you're learning and you're harving. Inside the balabatim that are listening online, inside the people that are sitting here and harving the 3 hours, you don't realize that on this we get the kiyum of kol yom ki'ilu kabla hayom Torah Mahar Sinai. This is where Ein Ro Lahagbal Yom Yedul in the Sinai. So we're not going to be magbal that it's only Shavuos. It's every single day there's another Matan Torah happening over here. This is where Kabbalah Satayah is taking place. Every single day, harving over another Rashba, harving over to understand Shatna Gemara. This is back to the Kabbalah Satayah Mahar Sinai. And what's the pshat? Why do we need every day to be Chadashis? What's the pshat? The pshat is Pashut, because the Yetzer Hara is also mischadish b'chal yom, like the Gemara in Kedushin says. The only way to fight the Yetzer Hara, b'yossi Torah tavnu. There's only one way to fight the Yetzer Hara, that's through Torah. So we need that the Torah has to be new every day, because the Yetzer Hara is coming with new tactics every day to stop us from learning, to give us excuses why we shouldn't join a Kyle, why it's hard and it's difficult, and every day there's another excuse. And we need to have that the Torah is chadash. See, every day you're learning a new sugya, a new daher in a sugya, a new knaish to the sugya. That's Torah Chadasha. Now let's start with today's sugya. Today we're looking to discuss a new echatimtza will be mutter for you to be shaya without any blach, without anything. You go away for the Shabbos, and your wife prepared everything besides the blach. You come, or you in your house yourself, you have a piece of silver, so you'll do that for a blach. But many times it's not good to put a piece of silver on top of the fire. So you forgot to buy a blach. It broke last week. It's not around anymore. You need a new blach. You forgot to buy a blach. So if echatimtza, either will pass like Hananya, which we started discussing last week, that after Machab and the Soy, you don't need a blach anymore. So the food was already a third cooked or half cooked. So then you won't need any more of this blach. That's one sheet. But we spoke last week in length that there's big machlokes in the Rishonim, the Sfardim, the Ashkenazim. The Sfardim are not makel on Chananya, that a third cooked is enough. Ashkenazim, the Mirmah says, V'nagul ha'akal, and we said that V'nagul ha'akal, Megadim is Medayik, V'nagul ha'akal, it's just that's the meaning, but really it shouldn't be done like that. And what's the pshat? We explained, because the Rosh says that really we should be machmir like the Rabban and like the Mechaber. Just we're not machmir because Klal Yisrael is not going to be makel. What should we do? When it comes to food, we said people get very hysterical and they'll start playing around with the fire. So therefore, we avoided that problem. So we passed it like Hanani, but really we should go with the Rabban. Fine. So last week we discussed Mistamik V'Yal and Mistamik V'Yafel. This week we're going to discuss a new sugya of Kedei Chayse. Actually, how to pronounce it, I'm still not clear, because you see in some Rishonim the Yud is before the Reish, Kidra Chayse, and some Rishonim say Kedei Chayse, the Yud after the Reish. But whatever, we're both referring to the same thing, that it's Kedei Kidra Chayse, a fresh piece of, I don't want to say meat yet, because we'll discuss that exactly what this fresh is, and therefore, that's going to be added. Now, why should that be added? Now, this is a sugya on the Gemara of Daf Yud Chesam at Beis. Hai Kedei Chayse Shori La'anuchai Erev Shabbos V'Chashecha B'Tanura. You're allowed to put a fresh piece of meat in the oven, in the fire, on Erev Shabbos. My timer, Kivin D'Loi Chazi L'Urta. Not going to be ready to be eaten at night. Asuchei Meisech Daiti Menevele Asuy L'Chatuy L'Gechalom. You Mesiach Das, you remove yourself from it. I can't eat at night, I'm removing myself from it. Zok Rashi, you're allowed to do it. The Vadai Chayso Lav Adaito L'Michla L'Urta An Chahasam. Why did he put it there? He knows it's not going to get cooked tonight. Obviously, he's intending for tomorrow. So if he's intending for tomorrow, there's no chashash is going to go ahead and be mechat. Shayesh l'shas galda, by then, you're going to wake up in the morning, it's definitely going to be cooked. As I state in Rashi. Now, the question is like this. Like the Rabbanon, this is good in Chananya. Chananya says, when something's already a third cooked, tomorrow a third is going to be cooked. The Rabbanon holds, even if it's mistamik v'yafaloi, and it's cooked completely, we're worried you're going to be mechata. So tomorrow it's going to be mistamik v'yafaloi. So what it helps you, that the fact is that it's a third cook, that it's going to be cooked by tomorrow. Why does that, what do I gain with that? L'may cigarette, tomorrow I might be mechata the chol. I see the chol tomorrow morning. It's a third cooked, it's completely cooked. But if I'm going to be mechata, it's going to be more geshmak. So why am I not worried that tomorrow morning I'm going to be mechata? Good kasha. Of them is the Amachlekes in the Yishanim. Tais Yishanim says that you're right, this Gemara is only going like Hanani. Now that's a problem. Because if we want to be, okay, so like the Ramah, that's good. But the Mechaber, we said even the Ramah was only Nagul Hakal, so it doesn't help you out. So we brought down a Lavush. Lavush says that the reason why it works is because the whole night it can get cooked without chitas. See, Mesiach died in the man. What does that do? So what do Mesiach das? But I'm worried. I'm always Mesiach das, but I'm worried that I'm going to go ahead tomorrow and cook it. What type of svar is this? L'chayri, you could say pasha. That again, we spoke about last week, and we said the same thing 2 weeks ago. We're not talking about avayim. We're talking about someone by mistake forgot. This person. He put it on right before Shabbos. He had a choice. Should I put it on an hour before Shabbos or should I put it on right before Shabbos? So he went and he put it on right before Shabbos. So if he went and put it on right before Shabbos, he has a reminder. Why did I do this? I did this lahedi because I know Shabbos is coming and I know I might be mechata. I'm giving myself a reminder. So
he has to have kavod that is giving himself a reminder. Well, that's inherent in his action. It's inherent in his action.
100%. But his action is goof a reminder. This mindset is goof a reminder.
It's a hacker.
It's a hacker. It's like instead of putting a blach, what did he do? He went ahead and put this, Yeah, he put in a raw piece of meat. So if he did that, obviously he knows to bavan himself and to prove himself that he's not going to go ahead and play with this child. We're not choishes now tomorrow he's going to go ahead and play with the child because he has a lahedi to get ma'isa hacker that he's not coming to play with the child. If we're talking about Avayin doesn't know. We're not talking about Avayin. We're talking about someone that knows the Shabbos. Just he's going to lose himself and bowl and he's going to go ahead and play with it, stir the coals. Now we're telling you, Alahedi did something before Shabbos to remind myself that this is not, I don't want to play with this on Shabbos. Therefore, this is a het of Kedei Chais.
And that comes with the next day.
Oh. So Rabbi
Yaakov.
Rabbi Yankov is asking, so the next day I had already a 12-hour nap, and now Shabbos later, you don't have a 12-hour, I can put him, you slept it over, the next day I'm back ball. What helps me, what I did yesterday? Shemichata, tomorrow I should be back ball. That's a very good question. So let's talk about, I don't know if you saw the Gemara on Kutma V'Hover. Did you saw that Gemara on the bottom of Lamed Ches Amud Aleph?
Let's go over it again. Could you put Lamed Ches Amud Aleph?
Lamed Zayin.
Lamed Zayin.
I don't have it in front of me either.
Lamed Zayin.
Amud Aleph on the bottom.
Yeah, okay, let's put it on again. We saw it, but let's always good to see it again inside. Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph. Rav Pesach. Which page? Page 2.
Amud Zayin Amud Aleph.
Okay.
Right there. You see on the bottom.
Yeah.
So the Gemara says, Kutma V'Hover. What does that mean? You were kiting the coals, and then how you kiting the coals means you make the coals. You were kiting it. You go over cut them.
You covered it.
You covered it, right? Now, after a while, it's going to become, sometimes yes, sometimes not. The fire is going to act up again, and it's going to come back a full-fledged flame. So the Gemara has a clear. What? The Gemara has a shaila. Do you say over there that would be a problem or not? Now, what's the shaila? This is negated practical to us. You took off by mistake, you took off the challenge on the crack pot, and the blech was not on. The blech fell off on the floor. We spoke about last week, muksa, not muksa 2 weeks ago, but I got it's not muksa. But let's say you don't know about that, you're worried it's muksa, you put it back on the flame. Not you're allowed to put it back on the flame because there's chazar without a blech. That's something else. Now we're dealing with Shia. But now let's deal with the chazar and Shia. Is there a problem or not? Which means the beginning of Shabbos, it was katan. Now Shabbos comes in the middle of Shabbos, over. In fact, flames are back to where it was. Do I say that there's a problem of Shemichata or not? And the Gemara discusses this, and in Halachos it's discussed. The Gemara on Amud Beis then says, Amar Abba Mabachana, 5 lines from the top. Amar Rabbi Yechanan, Kitma B'Huva, Mashna Le'achamin, Shehushmu Kol Tzalchan, V'tavshu Shabishul Kol Tzalchan. And the Gemara is going off tangent, going on to what the Gemara is trying to discuss, but the Gemara Pashtus Paskins that it's mutter. So Rabbi Yankov, your question is on that. Your question, I'm just coming off Kiddush Chaisa, but your question is on the Gemara. How can it help? And this is a very, very valid question. And Moshe says because of this question, again, this is a little off topic, but we asked a very good question, it has to be addressed. And Moshe Frankston says, Allah L'maisa, because of this question, he says that it doesn't mean, there's a shainim on this ritva, and he says it doesn't mean that it was completely over. If it was completely over, then I'm taka worried on Shabbos. Hey, what happened to me? It means that it's in between. That means there is some kutma, but it was hover to the extent that if this would be done before Shabbos, it wouldn't be enough. But since it's on Shabbos and it's a little bit kutma, it's still, the fire is a little bit lower than regular, that's why it's enough. But Moshe says, Avanda has to be that it has to be still somewhat of a hekka on Shabbos. So I'm just adding to your question. If this is true, if we go with this Moshe, that's why Moshe says if the blech fell off completely, it's not good anymore. You're over al shir. But if this is true, Rabbi Yankov is asking a very, very strong question on what was just said, because we're saying now that on Shabbos morning, I have no hekka of the Kiddush Chaisa at all. There's no hekka that there's a raw piece of meat b'chlal. So therefore, Rabbi Yankov is asking that, how can I tell you that on Shabbos there won't be a Shem Yechat?
It's not raw anymore. The meat with cheese is not raw.
It's if okay, so there's no hekka, so it should be Shem Yechat.
I'm saying Shem Yechat, yeah.
So I'm saying, why I gave you this whole ekdam is because if you learn Kutma V'Hovera, that there's no tima at all, there's no hekka, and still it's mutter, not like a Moshe, so then his question is not a question. But if you learn, because it's totally on Erev Shabbos, we don't care what's going to be on Shabbos. But if you learn like a Moshe, that Kutma V'Hovera, there has to be some hekka throughout, then over here you have a very good question. So you know what, Rabbi Yankov will leave you with the question. Okay? Maybe Thursday with the Iris or Shimrei Chai, maybe you come with a test. But right now, we'll leave it. Someone asked the question, I didn't see it.
I think you run it quick. Once you go inside, get the shop.
Right, but he's asking you better. Right, he's asking better because I see, that's what I'm explaining. Like your Moshe, you see, you don't stop as I say, like, look, you need still some kutma on Shabbos.
Rebbe, the question on the chat was stirring is only a gezerah, since most food will be fully cooked overnight, even though there's still a slight chance of stirring, but it's only a slight chance to no gezerah. That was from Ellie. And I was actually thinking that sometimes you're going to see, you see the chunks going to burn, and you want to just stir it. You don't want it to burn, so you want to make it more even, or add water, or whatever.
Okay, you went into a whole different question. Your question is a whole different. We never saw yet that you're going to lower the flame. Did we learn to sugya? We're on it for 2.5 weeks. Did we see anyone that you can lower the flame?
Never saw it yet.
Not yet, right? So that's going to be a good question. That if you leave the flame on the highest, maybe Stam should never need a blach. Again, we're getting off tangent a little bit, but that's a very right because we saw always you're going to be ball and you're going to raise it. We never saw that you're going to be ball and make sure it doesn't burn. Maybe, but did we see that yet?
No,
we never saw that.
About covering the flap.
No.
That could be, but that's a very good question. Why not? But we never saw that.
We never saw something that lowered the flame.
All right.
That's why maybe if you're stuck, maybe just leave the flame on the highest, and maybe you don't even need a block. Now that first question was something else. What was the first question that someone asked? He's trying to answer that it's just Xera, and that's a little bit what Rabbi Lowy over here is saying, that it's a light plug. That means the Xera was in the beginning of Shabbos, and we're not going to start dealing with the middle of Shabbos. That's what I'm telling you, that with Ramesh, it's a little more of a chiddush. I don't have that in my notes, but I didn't bring this, I'm saying the light plug I have, but not to add this Ramesh stickle.
You have it, brothers.
Oh, Ramesh, yeah, you know better than I am. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Yeah, okay.
We have steers between the shear and what's written. Okay.
No, for cat.
No, it's good.
I didn't know that I have it in my okay, fine. Yeah, the kids are nicer. So therefore, like Moshe, it would be a very, very valid question what the Gankel's asking. Okay, so let's move on. So the value we're holding over here that the reason why, getting back to the whole Kiddush Chaisa, that the head of Kiddush Chaisa is that now you come into Shabbos and you Masiach Das completely from it. It's a Maisa Heka, it's not a Maisa Heka, but the Maisa, it's enough that you Masiach Das, and that would be considered enough of a Heka to go ahead and not play with it on Shabbos, and that's the Heka. Now, to continue on, the Heka of Kiddush Chaisa, Pashas you would say, it's only by a piece of meat that's not going to get cooked within 6-7 hour range or whatever it is till it comes Shabbos, till it comes Shabbos. That's when it's going to get cooked. Now, Shabbos morning.
So
before that, after the night Suda, we'll speak about that. Yeah, we'll get to that. But like upon them, that's what Kiddush Chaisa is. Now, today our meat. I mean, most of our meats after 2 hours it's getting cooked. Right? You ever saw a piece of meat that took more than 2 hours? At least Ma'achim and the soy is getting cooked.
it does become Ralway? No. Lav
No,
Dafka.
Lav Dafka. But it's getting cooked. So do we have the heter to Kiddush Chaisa? Can we even stretch a heter like that? We don't have anything. I'm not just a bucky in these meats, but I don't see that a meat, maybe a real rough meat, could take 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours max. So we need to know if we have this heter. And today people are using the heter. People are using the heter. They're going away for Shabbos and they come there very late. They say, you know what? I'm going to wait to put it on right before Shabbos. Yeah?
Called Sarchai or Ben Drusai?
Oh, that's going to be a question. That's why I threw in B'daf when I said
Short. Short while.
Shlish, right? Now, so now let's Zos Vida?
One?
It's a way of cooking very, very slowly in a very controlled temperature. It's a new way of cooking.
Oh, what's it called? Sous vide. Oh,
Sous vide.
Oh.
Suvi, we're going to talk about Suvi Mir Tashem on Memorial Day.
That's
When we talk about the new stuff, let's hold that off for a moment.
Yes. No, that's a good question because I was asked that a lot about Atman. That's a whole different time also.
We'll get to it.
Yeah, but Akopanim, yes, let's get back to him. So again, so we're asking that is there any heter today of Kiddush Chaisa? Now let me be meisif to the Shaila on a little different akuda is that we're telling you that it has to be completely raw at the beginning of Shabbos. What is the beginning of Shabbos? Our Shabbos today, most of us are lighting candles 18 minutes before. And when you make an early Shabbos, no, you hope so?
Yeah.
Right? Early Shabbos is even, right? It's way before that, right?
An hour and a half.
And in Yerushalayim, they're lighting 40 minutes before, right? That's the minute of Yerushalayim. If everyone does that, Bunim, they light the candles 40 minutes before. So the question is that when Shabbos comes, it's not Kiddush Chaisa. It's already somewhat cooked. Kiddush Chaisa means that it's zero, nothing, there's nothing cooked in this thing before Shabbos came about. When Shabbos comes, there's something cooked, then it gets into the Yisurim. That's when there's Issa.
Like what the Rav said earlier, if the hecker is the throwing in, so it doesn't matter how much before Shabbos you did it. I mean, I'm not sure. You can't do it Friday, Thursday morning, but
so when, yeah. So this is a big machlokes in Achronim. The big machlokes in Achronim. The Magen Avraham in Reish Nun Gimel Sifkat and Beis says, Oishur Chai.
Put it up, Pesach.
Reish Nun Gimel Sifkat and Beis. The Magen Avraham.
Give him this page number. Excuse me. Go ahead. Continue talking. I'll get the page number.
Magen Avraham says,
Reish Nun Gimel
Sifkat and Beis.
45. 45. Yeah. Right.
It's going to be further than 45. It's going to be a few pages down.
You said Beis?
Yes. Magen Avraham, Sifkat and Beis. Probably right there. Shulchan, right there. Sifkat and Beis. Pirish. Oz shari litnoi samuch l'chashecha mamish. Then you'll have to put it there, samuch l'chashecha mamish. He doesn't normally write so sharp. It has to be mamish right next to night. Avalam nosnoi. By join, also the Kvanis Bashal Tzas Tzaydim Shabbos, the Tzarech L'Salkim Shechashecha Elam Kvanis Bashal Kol Tzarech Kodim Shabbos. You have that moment of Samach L'Chashecha Mamish. That's it.
How long?
The Mishabur writes this also. Mishabur in Sifkat and Yud says, Pish Al Shai Litnai Samach L'Shkia Mamish. Mishabur added words to us. Not just enough Samach L'Chashecha, Samach L'Shkia Mamish. Sifkat and Yud. Before that. So the Mishabur writes that it has to be Samach L'Shkia Mamish. So now we never have that. Ours, Man Kabbalah Shabbos is 18 minutes before. Okay, the men, if they're doing zich around over there, normally they're not gonna, the wife puts them to work before that. But the Mishabur said very clear, not when you're Mekabel, when it's Samach L'Shkia. So it comes out the het of Kiddush Chaisa is going to be only when you put it Samach L'Shkia. The Rebbe Kreiser writes that when the Mishabur wrote it, Rebbe Kreiser has a Sefer Aracham on Mishabur. And he has very interesting aris, and he writes over there that he's not coming to be mayit before your Kabbalah Shabbos. He just thought that Amol, that's what they did was they were Mekabel Vashkir. But that's a chiddush to say because he went out of his way and said Samach L'Shkir Mamish. It's mashma that it's Samach L'Shkir. And Nisa Kirelitz and the Shevet HaLevi also go with this that it doesn't mean Samach L'Shkir, it means Samach Your Kabbalah. But Reb Henkin and Shlomo Zalman, they felt it has to be mamish samach l'shkir, and therefore, none of us is going to be neged unless you're going to be Mekabel Shabbos a minute before. Your wife is definitely trying to light Shabbos 18 minutes before. That won't be good. So that's very neged that this sugya that we're learning today. That's what I said. Unless the husband puts it on, and a few minutes before shkir, he puts it on. But in not always, people think, okay, I'm going to put it on raw. Just to be magdim that it's not like, I put it on an hour before that zikr doesn't work. You want to 18 minutes before? You have what to be samach. You said you have Mizrach Kreiser, you have Nisa Krelitz, you have enough what to be samach on the Shevet HaLevi.
I wonder if caterers use this heter.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Cater?
Everything is fully cooked before?
They got 200 extra people.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
They do. But basically, Akapanim was saying this heter of Kiddush Chaisa before you even start this, so you have to know when you're putting it on to give you the heter of Kiddush Chaisa. Just the fact that it's raw didn't just walk over the heter of Kiddush Chaisa. And not only that, there is a machlokes, Chazon Ish and Mishabura. Again, we're going to get back to what we were discussing before, but this is big machlokes, Chazon Ish and Mishabura. If Mishabura is in Sifkat Yud Aleph, Mishabura, the next Mishabura that we bring down, Afilu Chaim hatavshel nami mutal lahashis.
Hucham, yeah.
Hucham. Even if the tavshel became hot, you could be shayid, like Gazin Shemi Yechata. Keep on the etzem abishol and his bashal klal. So that would give you some leeway. The Mishabur is giving you some leeway. So we have the Mishabur himself that said earlier in Sifkat and Yud what we just spoke about, that Samach L'Shkiya Mamish, but it gives you leeway that if it gets hot, then you'll have that. That's not considered yet that it got cooked.
But it can't go. He says hot, but not at all in his bashal and Artzian.
So
it's a very, very narrow,
very clear. I mean,
narrow
very
path.
Narrow path to drama. So therefore, a person wants to start with the heter kiddush chaisa, which is klar mutter, but we just have to realize that you're going samach l'shkiya mamish. Okay. So now getting back to what we were discussing. We were discussing if you're putting in a piece of meat. So the piece of meat is going to be raw and it's not going to be ready for the Suda. Now, that's why we got into this, because when do you have not getting ready for the Suda? It takes you at least, we hope, between Mincha, Kabbalah Shabbos, Ma'ariv, walking over in the shul, saying Shabbos to the Rav, an hour at least. So now, by your Suda, there's somewhat it's already ready. So it's not going to be ready. That's klar. We started off klar. That's not going to be ready for the Suda. So if it's not going to be ready for the Suda, it has to be that at night, it's not going to be ready. You have to have a chetimtza that's not going to be ready at night.
Be ready, but he knows that he wants to use it only for Shabbos.
Oh. So Rabbi Lowy, sitting over here, wants to taina that mechat taisa is going to be ready or not ready. Maybe it's dependent on what it is. Cholent, most people don't eat Friday night Suda cholent. You're putting it for Shabbos day. So the Chazal's takona, what was the pshat in Chazal like we saw in Rashi? That the time of Chazal was that you're not going to eat it at night, so you're not going to be mechata. So any food that you know you're not going to eat at night, forget blachs. So Rabbi Lowy, you just walked off with the whole cholent blach. Right? That's what you're telling me. That any food that you know you're not going to eat for tonight, I don't need it to be raw b'chlal.
Or the derech ha'olam not to eat it at night, right?
What does that mean, derech ha'olam?
Is it objective, subjective? Cholent, people don't generally cholent. What happened to the bacher decides he wants to eat cholent?
Okay, right. That's a very good challenge we're going to have to discuss. You don't know your bacher, all of a sudden you come home and you wake up a little earlier than him on Shabbos morning, you see he tried to hide it, but the bowl you found in the garbage, right? The cholent, what's going on with it? So he tells you he took it off. So he's on Shuldik, there's no blech. They don't know about it. They didn't learn the Pesugi of Shia Chazar. They don't know about blech. You don't put a blech because you hold, let's say, chanan, whatever it is. You pass like chanan, you can't have a blech, whatever it is in the oven. The kids are nicer. He went and there's no blech there. So you're going to say, oh, I had kiddush chaisa, I put it right before Shabbos. Good, but he ate it at night. So let's say, we'll get back to that. But I just want to get what Rabbi Lowy brought up is a very important nakuda. Rabbi Lowy's timing that the whole head to kiddush chaisa was, because I'm not going to touch it at night. So Habuchshan, over here, I know I never eat this cholent in the night. It's not a normal, like Rabbi Gaddis been saying, it's not the derech, even once in a while you eat cholent in the night. Normally, that's not what comes out on your chicken plate Friday night. And if your wife tells you that you say on Shabbos, you missed the Yitzhus, you didn't forget Sfir yet, Morgan I'm going to count. I'm still holding over here that it's a night Suda. So cholent should never need a blach. How do you answer that child? It's a very good challenge, Rabbi Lowy. And maybe you're right. Maybe it's not a challenge. Maybe Zakt up sak. That if it's challenge, you never need a blach because it's like Goya from Kiddush Chaisa. Again, Kiddush Chaisa, the svar was because I'm not going to play with it at night because it's clear, it's not going to be ready. And what am I going to do? I'm going to only use it in the day. So, fact, Rabbi Lowy, sorry, why do I need to have that? I put in a raw piece of meat in my cholent. I could just go ahead and I know that I'm not going to eat the cholent until the day. That's the gestay chacham. It's not a food that's eaten by night. So what do we do with that child? It's not a shaila. It might be a psak, right? What are you coming to do with that, Rabbi Lowy? Paskin.
Things change. The bottom comes right away.
Okay, so let's say you're already at that age that you're bachim. And also, who says bachim have a right to go ahead and make you change this din? If the din is that the my cigarette, you're not going to go ahead and it's not the norm to do it. So now there should be a heter that you're not going to go ahead and do it. So now.
Maybe it cooks very fast, the chon, faster than maybe it's cooking very fast. I don't know how long it takes the chon to cook with the beans and everything.
So Rabbi Schwartz is asking that maybe it's going to cook quicker, and that doesn't make a difference to us. If I'm going to have this piece of meat cooked quicker, that doesn't make a difference. The nakuda is the head of kiddush chaisa is that you're not going to eat it till tomorrow. So I'm not going to be mechata. I'm not going to be bold. Today I'm not going to be, and by tomorrow it's going to be ready already. Fine. So any food that I have that I don't eat till Shabbos day should be mutter. Who's kavayit? The Rebbetzin in the house is kavayit. When this food is being eaten, who's the one that's going to touch the fire? Not you. Or worried your wife's going to touch the fire. That's just a big shiloh. When you put the blech on, what does that help for your wife? Who's the one that's bald? Your wife. Teretz, because the blech she sees just like you see. But over here, kiddush chaisa, which is stam shiloh. Let's say you put in a piece of meat. She doesn't know about it. Does that work kiddush chaisa?
Does the pot to have a meat in it that it becomes?
Yeah,
liquor?
is that like a heta out there and she doesn't know anything about it. She doesn't know you put a piece of meat. That's another shot. And normally you should tell your wife, let her notify her. But like a Bunim today's in the kitchen, you should notify what's going on with it. But getting back to Rabbi Lowy's question, so this is a big nicer in the Rishonim. And the Beis Yosef has a big nice about this, that the Beis Yosef says that Layrod b'dvar shum paisik zelasim shechilik b'kach. And there's a big problem. There's a steer in Beis Yosef because Beis Yosef under the sim brings it down. So I'll tell you where it is. There are in the end in Reish Nun Dalet Sif Hey. In the end, he brings Hashem the kolboy. She'einoi oifer l'tzayach Shabbos rak l'matzah Shabbos. If you're not cooking something for Shabbos, you're cooking something for matzah Shabbos. Stores maybe sometimes they do that. They have a big event on matzah Shabbos. So cooking something on Friday for matzah Shabbos.
Page 83.
Okay.
It's coming up in a second. Here we go.
Fine.
That was the Shiloh.
No. It's in the book, page 83. Pesach. There you go.
For matzah Shabbos.
Oh. That's this whole
Line 3 or line 2. End of line 2. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. She'einoi oifer l'tzayach Shabbos rak l'matzah Shabbos. Fingers click one thing. Okay. The yesh le'zman le'afaisei mutter. The loy gazrina b'chiyai gavna shem yechata. This is from the Kolba. And this is what the Tachbat is not again. The second part we just read. That Eino Eifel Tzarech Shabbos Rak L'Matzah Shabbos V'yesh Le'zman Le'afotzei Mutter the Loy Gazrina B'chiyai Gavna Shem Yechata. So we're going to stretch this remark, and the Remark is telling you that since we're going ahead and we're not using it on Shabbos, maybe you should have a Chashash Shem Yechata. No, we don't. We're not Chashash Shem Yechata. Why? Because by Matzah Shabbos it's going to be ready, even though it's not a kiddush chaisa. It's not a raw piece of meat. You put it up every Thursday night. But the fact is that you're not going to use it on Shabbos. You're going to use it on Matzah Shabbos. So we'll say who adin that I will say in their mother who adin in any food that I'm not going to eat till Shabbos day, and by Shabbos day it's going to be ready. It's a food which is not normal to eat for Friday night. It's not the regular by mine and to eat Friday night. L'chayot should be mutter. So
problem is the Magen Avraham himself doesn't accept it.
Very good. You know that. But the guy's been saying that the Magen Avraham himself doesn't accept it, and the guy enough and odd. And if you look at the Be'alacha over there, Divrei Maschil Hashaisei Allah. So Medina and Lismay Chazeh, he's not going over there. Is early on. Should be the average Lismay Chazeh, but don't be normal to do this. And he writes with Lukamon simulation of Zion Sif Aleph Ba'Gol in Atmana and Chemash B'Pim Megodim Yeshul Dal Yeshadom Sif Kat Chav. That's what the Be'alacha says. That Lamaisa, that you should not be samech on it, but the evidence, okay. So you have another.
Talking about Tach, or he's talking about Matzah Shabbos too.
Matzah Shabbos too, and yeah.
He doesn't say that. He says the Be'alach is on Tach, right?
Last I say.
Which are you talking about Bishul or the Be'alach?
Be'alach. Last I say Allah. It's not here. It's in back in Rishon Gimel.
Oh, it's Rishon Gimel.
Okay. So the Be'alach over there says that you should not be samech on it, the katchila, but the Eved, you can be samech on it. So, but the Eved, this is a very important halacha to remember. But the Eved means bidi avad. It means if you did it by mistake, you didn't put it on a blech, on a chalent. If you don't have brachim in your house, you have what to be samech on, not to have a blech. If you didn't have a blech, you have what to be samech on. Very important halacha. So right away you start making a tumble, you come to caterers and this and that. You don't know that there's another sif in Rishon Dalet, sif hey, which no one gets up to, is that there is a remote to be samech. I know the Magen Avraham doesn't go with it, but the Mishabura, the Be'alacha tells us that Medina and Lismech Hazeh, but the Yavad Yesh Lismech Hazeh. So if you have such a Be'alacha, then we have enough what to rely on b'diavad. Again, with the a person shouldn't be doing this.
So how's it done? So what are you doing, Taka? Right before Shkia, let's go through the procedure.
Look at, I just want to see the halacha inside. It's Reish Nun Gimel Sif Aleph, the first page. It's the third halacha on the Siman of Reish Nun Gimel.
Page 72.
Right there, Lash Oisei. No.
Page 72. Lash Oisei Aleh.
Lash Oisei Aleh.
10
There you go, right there on the right
You went
side.
too far. You went too far.
Yeah, right there, exactly. If your kavanah is just for tomorrow, yesh person shematiyin, lechashin sheyav lechatis, ukemoy b'chaisa. El Yerabah. V'ayim estimation down to fei ba'agrosham, we're going to run sham. This is what we spoke about Kitzel. V'Yerabah in this mechazeh, the dafka b'chaisa she'i efshel achlei. But you can't. Avazeh she'efshel achlei, chashinon she'yim lech la'achlei, l'maisa b'chaisa that you will be. El shebedi yevad yesh this mechazeh. Actually, the glasses can. So again, very, very important bi'alacha. With the Yevid, you have it to be Simcha. So we know he brings down the Magen Avraham, but we have it to be Simcha on this bi'alacha that with the Yevid, you'll have enough to be Simcha.
If kavanah say l'tzarich machar.
Right.
So how do you measure that?
Every chance.
So then we had a problem with the.
This question, that he had before, any chayil, when it comes 7 o'clock in the morning, it's edible.
Before the Suda. Before the Suda.
When 7 o'clock in the morning gets up, that doesn't mean it's cold. It gets better all the time.
Right.
Comes back.
True.
So it should be more.
And still we say it's not a problem. Whatever, because Rabbi Lowy said that's like, look, whatever it is. Yeah, and he makes his kasha shver, but his kasha is not going to change the halacha. What Rabbi Yankel was asking is not going to change the halacha. It was a very good question. But the halacha is not going to change. So therefore, we have to go ahead and we could use this heter with the Eved that if you didn't have a blech on your cholent and cholent to eating only, again, we're not talking about bachim. Bachim's going to make us problems. But cholent, the Mala mentioned, don't eat it 6 times a week, Thursday night, Friday night.
So on a hot plate, you leave it on a hot plate without a blech.
You leave it on a hot plate without a blech. If it's a side-valued thing and it wasn't, so you have 2 things to be samach. Normally it's going to be a third cooked. Chananya. Even if you don't want it to be a third cook, even if you're going to tell me that you want to be makpid under Abanon, but I have it here right here that it doesn't need a blech because there's no shem yechat because it's for tomorrow. You hear what we just did here? It's a nice right now that it's shown on a crackback. You have 2 tzirufim to be made not to need a blech. Again, always good to have a blech. I told you from Ruben Feinstein. Right? Remember what I told you? Yeah, his mother told him, it was in Sima, I think her name, right?
Sima.
It was in Sima. So she told Reuven, it was the first few weeks that he was making Shabbos, that he got married. So he was eating by a Moshe. He was eating by his father. And she says, "Da blechem shtub." She said, "Well, I don't have a fire. I'm not making Shabbos. I Yiddish should not have a blech." Okay, this is a vibe Shagish. Yeah. Like upon him. But be'etzim, you have nothing to worry about mamish holding kamal lekatchila because we have 2 tzirufim. We have first chananya, meked chananya, and then we're telling you another thing is that shalom. Most people don't eat it till tomorrow. If most people don't eat tomorrow, then with the avad, it's okay. So again, I'm not telling you not to put a blech, but we're just telling you that if you didn't, or sometimes you go to caterers and you start screaming, "Where's the blech? Where's the blech?" Take it easy. That shalom doesn't need a blech, and that kugel was lahadi made for tomorrow because no one is coming into the shul trying to eat that kugel. It's a ganav. So that's why a caterer might not need a blech b'chlal.
What about the shalom zacher shalom?
Oh, that's what I said. Right, we're talking about that. Right, and in yeshiva won't help you either because it's already ongoing with chazaka that the bach will come in and they break through the kitchen door and try to get that night.
Most people cook before Shabbos.
They cook a little before Shabbos. No, but we're using 2 ater. Using that if it's
chananya, it's to be vasha kotzer.
Yeah. Okay, now let's continue on. So that's where this kiddush chaysa by us plays a big role, even though we were making problems before with the raw meat. But we got a new svara below. He opened us up with a new svara here, which we see is not so new, but akapanim, this is a new eye opener that it's not just the raw piece of meat; it's the svara behind the raw piece of meat. The raw piece of meat told us a svara. Explain to us this far that when you're removing yourself from tonight, you're not going to be bald tonight Chazal didn't worry about tomorrow.
So if somebody's asked you, you wouldn't discourage them necessarily. Not a good thing to do as a habit, right? But you wouldn't
Right,
discourage
because a
them.
habit, he says, not to do. So I wouldn't tell you to do it for no blech,
But the habit, yes.
but the habit 100%. 100%. And when the caterers do it, and it's come out impossible to put a blech in that, in the heating element that they come with, these ovens, I don't know if it's an oven, it's just the heating element, right? Those movable
Warmers.
So over there, we'll discuss warmers, that's a whole shmooze for itself. But akapanim, so over there, it's very not, you want to be meicher, you're doing the wrong thing. Not the wrong thing, they're probably in halacha, they are probably right, that you don't need a blech. Most of the time, I think it's cooked anyways, but still,
Doesn't matter the size of the basar, doesn't matter the status of the basar.
So now what we have to discuss is what we started originally was that we got off tangent, that what are you putting in here that's not getting cooked? So we said today our meat is basically all after 2 hours. From the time you leave and the time you're going to come back, it's going to be already somewhat meichel ben the that Kiddush Chais is not going to help you. You might go ahead and change your mind. I don't think anyone changed their mind now that they started serving chow on Friday night, which is Suda, maybe afterwards. But for the Suda, no one changed their mind. But a piece of meat that you designated for tomorrow Shabbos day, it could be that you change your mind. You put it in raw. Once I see it's mostly cooked, I might change my mind and I might be mechat. Now the problem is more than that. The Rambam Pish Mishnah says yerek. Meat, let's say a hard piece of meat, the fires weren't that high, takes a good few hours. But yerek, definitely, Yerokis, vegetables do not take that long.
Put up the Pish Mishnah's Pesach that we had earlier.
Oh, you have it? Oh, good. In the beginning of Perek Gimel, Pish Mishnah says very clear. Dover chayki going basar or yerek. Now what do you do with yerek? Yerek gets cooked. Yerokis get cooked. If it doesn't, that means something's wrong with it. Not that it's hard, that's not going to get cooked. So the question is, how do we answer? Yeah, right there.
That's yeah.
Yeah, right there. Oh, good. Davar chai, kigoyin basar ayer, v'yei mutter l'shoyser agav kol neshem mesiach daita.
Oh, you didn't have.
No, he got it. Right, 2 words before. That's all.
Oh, 2 words before. I see. Okay,
2 words
yeah.
before. Davar chai, kigoyin basar ayer. Perfect. V'yei mutter l'shoyser. So the question is, basar. Let's say we're trying to explain that we don't really understand it that well, but I'm old to get basar. That took a while to get cooked, and it took till tomorrow morning. But yerek, the chayah does not take that long. Therefore, many poskim are very bothered with this, and Mrs. Zalman that is bothered with this. He says, and
Steer it to the yad.
Steer it to the yad, steer it to the Rambam Yad Chazaka. As we see, the Rambam Yad Chazaka does not say this. Rambam Yad Chazaka says,
Basar.
Yeah, klar, basar. So, and the acharas hapaiskim is that there's no, you see the Mishabur and contest, that we're not going to be makel by yerek chai. But what was the svar in it? The svar in it, the chai was pashut, as the Rambam writes himself. Mibneishu Mesiach daita. Why in the world is a guy putting some yirakas, there's a pot cooking there, and he puts a fresh yirakas into this pot. What's he dumping a fresh yerek? The parrot is, because he's doing a maisa to be mechiach, that he doesn't want to have anything to do with this. Why is he putting this in? Obviously, he's trying to advise to make a ma'aseh mechiach, and that's the whole blech. What do you think the blech is? The blech doesn't tell you anything. The blech is a ma'aseh mechiach. I'm being misalik myself from this path. That's what I'm doing. I'm being misalik myself in this path. Therefore, even let me talk to one akuda, which has to be discussed in length. But just to bring you a riot to this musig, is that sometimes you're so used to a blech that it doesn't even stop you. Sometimes with these crackpots, you go ahead and it comes with that piece of silver foil. It's black with the silver foil. From week to week, you put it on and your wife cooks with it. It's not like, and before, right? She doesn't even take it over. It's not like before Shabbos, she goes, okay, let me put the blech on. It's there already from week to week. So how does that help? We'll have to discuss that when we discuss blechs. That's a big nice. Shlomo Zalman says maybe it doesn't help talking because of that. But what I'm just bringing out Nakuda is that once I do a ma'aseh mechiach, then it's already finished. We're not done every time. This here, you went ahead, you put in a raw piece of vegetable. It might take 5 minutes to cook. But why did you do this for? You did a ma'aseh to be machiach. You did this ma'aseh to advise that I don't want to have anything to do with this pot. How? By putting in a raw piece of vegetable. Now we all agree that putting a besan doesn't work. That's called a ma'aseh in the pot. I have to do a ma'aseh in the pot. That's chazal musach. But the fact that you put in a raw piece of meat or a raw piece of vegetable or anything, zok around, that's enough. Good. And that everyone argues and says it's not enough for ma'aseh because for us, I'm going to come 5 minutes in and I see a cook. That can't be enough of a Masich Das. But Me'ikra Adin, the fact that I did a Maisa of showing that interesting act in the pot, that will be enough to be Machiach that on Shabbos I don't have anything to do with this, and that will be Masalik myself from this sug of Eichel that I'm not going to touch this pot.
So is there anything else? If it's just washing the rock, what if I turn the top of the pot upside down? Is there anything else? Is there anything else that we could do? It would be a sin, a hecker.
So Rabbi Yankov is asking that, okay, so we came out now with Chiddush with Irakas, which with the person don't go with, but upon him, there is such a Chiddush. Now, so is there any other way that I could go ahead and make a hecker that instead of silver foil doesn't work for me, I want to do a different hecker? Now, the answer is really no, there isn't another way. And that's going to be discussed when we discuss the blech. I don't know if it was discussed here or not, or with the knobs and this and that, that really that's why today things are much different than the Bisman Chazal. Because Bisman Chazal, they didn't have a knob to cover, they covered the fire. Today we never play with the fire, like we discussed, we mentioned this in passing, that's why you cover the knobs. But it's time to say to turn over a pot, well, we'll get there also. There is a musik to turn over a pot cover, and that's going to be, it's very removed from the fire. That would be another option which to be discussed. But upon him, getting back to this. So now,
What about eggs? What about eggs? I have a son-in-law, they put eggs. Is that the reason why they do that?
The question was eggs.
Eggs in the children.
Eggs in the show.
they're doing that because they stamp from Ungarn, or they come from Kirstir or something. And
They were rich, they had eggs. And the Poland Galitzid only had the turnips.
Right, but yeah, a lot of people do that today. That's not. He doesn't do that because Kiddush Chayes. He doesn't.
He wants to know if egg would qualify as a Kiddush Chayes.
Would egg qualify? I had to. That means again, we don't go with the Rambam, but let's say you go to. I think they put it only cooked. No, I don't know.
For how long does it take? You throw an egg into a pot. Does it cook? How long does it take to cook?
Their whole life.
No,
right, but he's asking that the Rabbi Stern's asking very Stern, right? Rabbi Stern's asking a very stark shayla. That means, is it like Yerakas or it's like Basa? Yerakas we know it takes 5 minutes. It gets somewhat soft. It doesn't take that much longer. If the pot is hot, it doesn't take long. Eggs are something that's in between. So do we say it's dafka meat? And now that's one question. Another question Rabbi Stern is asking, which is a very good question, is the eggs don't talk to the children. Those people, they're eating eggs because that's going to be the first dish, and then they're going to start the chocolate. So do eggs, that means if I go ahead, let's say a guy does eat eggs. If I go ahead and have one Kiddush Chayes and one not Kiddush Chayes, is there chassan that you might be mechata or not? Let's say the eggs are talk for itself, but the cholent, I might stir it because of the cholent. Why should the eggs play a role in the cholent? You'd rather put it in the same pot, but do the eggs play a role, make an afkamina that now this Kiddush Chayes in the pot? So no, I'm not going to stir the pot. Very, very good question. You hear the shadow, Rabbi Lowy? Correct, I get the shadow. Now, the chayra over here, if I put a potato in the cholent, so now I'm not going to stir it because I did a heck in the cholent itself. Eggs are pumped in the cholent. Because why? Because you want the eggs to taste cholent. Right? Right? It tastes better like this. So that's beside the egg, but beside the cholent.
What about pouring water into the cholent?
Very good. So to answer these questions, this is a big machlokes. If I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go and put something kedei chayse and also not kedei chayse. From Megadim in Mishpat Zazav, Reish Nun Tes Sif Gimel, he says that he talks about the Shaila and Chazanish has talks about it. Akapanim This is a very good shayla. Now, I'll tell you the shayla is twofold. If in the oven I have one thing which is kiddush chaysa and I have one thing which is not kiddush chaysa. And Rabbi Stern asked even better if in the same pot I have kiddush chaysa.
That is more that you have if you throw it.
So we're saying that's because the cholent, that's for the cholent itself. You add it to the cholent. You threw in a new piece of meat. So that's going to add to the cholent, so that works. But over here, I don't care about the egg. My cholent is right now no kiddush. There's no kiddush chaysa in the cholent. The egg is a thing for itself.
What's the difference
That's
to
why it's a
care?
very
When
good
you
shayla.
throw a raw piece of meat in, you're doing mishum a hecker to create a heter. You don't care about that meat either. You're just
Right,
trying,
but we all agree.
you're trying to
that-
save the cholent.
That's true, but we're all agreeing that I have to have shaykhs to the cholent. That's done. If I go ahead and just put something, no resemblance.
Yeah,
to
I can throw a green bean into a cholent. I mean, it has to.
Oh yeah,
be-
you're right.
It has to meet the recipe. That's the
Right, I
right.
have to meet the recipe. If there's no shaykh to the cholent, what do I care about the egg? But my son, I'm worried that I'm going to be mechat the cholent. If I'm going to be mechat the cholent, what do I care? So you're going to tell me that's a raya? That's enough of a raya? I'm not going to be mechat the cholent.
So in
when I
Karastir,
shaykhs,
in Karastir, it meets the recipe. No.
it doesn't meet the recipe of the cholent. It meets the recipe of the egg. So let the egg. I'm not going to touch it.
Oh, they eat it separately to take the egg out and eat it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's part of the Irish people.
Yeah, that is
Oh,
what it
you
is.
get it. No, it's like,
Oh, you're mamish. You're mamish litfish.
I'm Amish and Amar.
You're mamish.
My wife is very litfish, yes.
Oh, okay. No shaykhs.
We only know from
No, Rabbi
potato.
Lo, you have the eggs in the cholent, no? She ate them outside. Yeah, a lot of people
Calciana have
like
eggs in the throat?
A lot of people like it. Today it's more.
You're
more-
Hungarian?
Yeah, more and stuff. So the kids are nicer. So
No eggs in the
therefore,
throat.
that's Rabbi Stern. We're going to leave you with a shayla. The ick is that don't do that anyway, because
What's that?
we're not so. The whole kiddush chaysa we said is debatable, but we'll give you the other heter of what we machadish today with the halacha the tziruf, that since your das is only till tomorrow, that's a good enough tziruf. And again, the Olam from Mechazik, don't. It's not the number. It's not how many people. It's what the Olam's learning and the Olam's knocking. You see the smeichel up in front of the people on the video. They don't see over here. Malak the Torah. It's nish pashut. When you zeicha to move to Lakewood, you'll be zeicha to see the Torah live. And Adarab, Faket. I'm in a way more ball. A guy, someone's listening on video and he doesn't even see that chiyas hatayah, and he has that cheshek hatayah, the eish hatayah by him. So we'll be zeicha to continue. We'll see you next week Tuesday.
Maybe we'll send everybody an egg before Shabbos.